And welcome to Talk Cookie Gaming's match preview, Fulham against West Ham United. Gonzo, kick us off as always with your thoughts on the Cottagers, please.
Well, I think they had a traumatic summer with a lot of speculation, with their striker being lured away. There was the speculation at the time was both the striker and the manager being lured away to Saudi Arabia. So I think that would have been quite unsettling. Spent a lot of time looking at Fulham at the tail end of last season because it was them and us who had almost exactly the same age squad. We were jointly had the oldest squad in the Premier League. And of course, they then signed, William got a contract extension. So there you go. We will now just be the second oldest squad in the Premier League. So that's something to be proud of. I think they've done really well, Geo. I think they've done really well, currently sitting 12th in the Premier League. And they are not at any point have been in a conversation to go down. And I understand that the promoted clubs have not been particularly good, and you've had the stuff happen with Everton. But I think bearing in mind the way they've been forced to do business, I think he's done a remarkable job, the manager there, actually. And then you look at what they've just done to Nottingham Forest. I know some part of that might be people, say that's Nottingham Forest, but you've got to also remember Nottingham Forest are not a team that you would necessarily think will go down this season. I know it looks worse after a 5-0 loss, but at the point where they were facing up against each other, when Fulham were about to play Nottingham Forest, they were like that. They were neck and neck in the Premier League. They're going to beat them 5-0. And I think, looking at it, I was watching those goals go in. I look at Fulham, I think, what that guy's done with a bunch of journeyman footballers. And I don't mean that to be insulting, but a group of footballers who have basically a lot of their careers have sort of failed or stuttered or stalled elsewhere. It's nothing short of miraculous. And I've watched players like Jimenez and Iwobi looking really, really good in that game. They're doing really well, mate. They've got, if in this league, you can have, is your idea is to stay in the league and you can have more points than games, I think you're doing really, really well. And they've got 18 points from 15 games. They're going to be all right this season.
If we'd played, I agree with what you're saying about them in the summer. A lot of upheaval. Also, we were chasing Polina. We were making £50 million bids for Polina as well. So while their striker was unsettled, their midfielder might have been, their manager was potentially getting lured away to Saudi, but they kept a hold of two of them. And I think that's a massive compliment to Fulham that the manager and Polina wanted to stay at Fulham. I think that shows just how far they've come and how well they've done to stay in the Premier League and retain those people at the club, because they are big people. They're people in demand elsewhere. And the money on offer for Marco Silva was huge. So, I was surprised he turned it down, truth be told, but great to see. I quite like it, actually. I think, well, actually, there's two ways. I'll get onto that in a second. If we played Fulham 3-4 weeks ago, I'd been really looking forward to this game, because when I have watched them this season, I have found them to be quite boring.
Yeah.
And very... There's not much about them in the sense, they don't have a striker. I know Raul's up there and he's done okay in the last couple of games, but I don't really see him as an option. He's not much of a goal threat. I don't worry about him. Watch this come back to haunt me. But so far this season, I'm not really been impressed by him. Vinicius, their other option, is not a really good striker either. They really need to, if they could buy someone in January, I would urge them, go get a striker, because then they might actually start scoring more goals. I think they've scored more goals in the last 3 games than they had in the first 12 games of the season.
3s and 4s.
Yeah. So they are finding the net now, but that's why 3 weeks ago I'd have been rubbing my hands at playing this Fulham side. You said, yes, please, because there's a few weaknesses in there. Their defence isn't that great. They can't score goals. And they had all the ingredients for a side struggling this season. Now, we'll get on to that in a second. But like you said, the win against Nottingham Forest was huge, because they're probably in their own little league with the likes of Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Everton. I'm putting Everton in there. I know they're a few points off, but that's because of a points deduction. Everton would be in that little group of teams as well. So if you can win your games against those fixtures, you'll be fine. I agree with what you're saying. They'll probably stay away from relegation. However, one thing I was going to say to sort of counteract what you were suggesting, I think they are one of the teams that are fortunate that the 3 promoted teams are that bad. I think them and Nottingham Forest in particular are those two sides that can go, thank God that those three are terrible. We're not going to be in a relegation battle, not because we are good, but because they're that bad. I've just not been that impressed by Fulham until the last few games. To lose 4-3 against Liverpool at Anfield, you're unlucky. To score 5 against Forest, fantastic. Really good, entertaining game against Wolves. I thought they were fortunate to win. I think VAR helped them out. But that's not Fulham's fault. That's down to the idiot in charge of the monitor. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Fulham. Before we get on to individual players, do you have anything else you'd like to comment on regarding Fulham?
I think in terms of, I think it's a bit of an accident, Fulham. I do think that the plan was to take over Fulham from the owner and move to Wembley. So I do wonder if there's a lack of investment, true investment there now from somebody who possibly regrets taking the club over, or he doesn't because it'd be like somebody trying to buy West Ham so they could get their hands on that real estate around, London Stadium and it not happening and then sort of having to apologetically run the club. I don't know how I may be well wrong on that, well wide of the mark. But I do think, bearing in mind the size of the club, and I found myself saying this quite a lot recently, bearing in mind the size of the club, and it's in a great location there over on the other side of the river. I do think they're doing really well, Geo. I really do. And I do think that what happened in the summer was sort of forced upon them. Whilst there's not a massive amount of investment, I think to keep the manager, to keep Polinia, means that the club is probably really, really well run, even if it's not going to have that injection of, 200 million every sort of season or whatever the case may be. I know you can't do that for financial fair play, but you know what I mean. Without that cash injection, I think they're doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they can look up for the remainder of the season rather than look down. Whereas, like I said a few weeks ago, I'd have been suggesting that while they still are fortunate, the 3 teams below them are rubbish. They're possibly only a few bad weeks away from being sucked into a relegation battle, but I don't think that'll happen just because of the lack of quality down at the bottom. Right before we discuss players from Fulham, we want to discuss offers at Hammers Chat. Now, because we're uploading this Friday night, you may be watching it Friday, you might be watching it Saturday, you might even be watching it on Sunday. We're doing a different offer every single day, so I'm going to tell you both offers. On Friday, we've got 20% off all unsigned books, so you can get The Lion Who Never Roared, which is all about Jack Leslie, who's a boot boy at West Ham. You can get Bolin's Farewell, you can get Grace's Escape, The Games That Made Us. Plenty of books on offer at our store. We're offering 20% off every single one. You don't need a special code, you don't need a special link. Just go to hammerschatstore.com, click on books. All the books are already reduced by 20%. And Saturday's offer, so this is live from 8:30 on Saturday, depends when you're watching this. We're offering the European Conference League winners beer match for just £4. Usually £7.50, only £4. 6 beer mats, put them all together. On one side, you've got a map of Prague with some famous beer brands on there. On the other side, you've got a mosaic of the team winning it. And it's not just a photograph, it's Cantown Lens painting. And it's the only image, Gonzo's got it there, it's the only image which contains every single player that played in the campaign at West Ham. And he's added some Claret and Blue. So he's took a photograph, added in some West Ham players that aren't in the actual photograph, and he's added some Claret and Blue as well. So it's a very unique image. That's on the other side of beer mats. Everything's on the website. Go to hammerschatstore.com. Gonzo, players you admire from Fulham, please.
Yeah, by the way, if you want a copy of that painting, you want the painting itself, check out, that's not on our store, that's on canningtownlen.com. Players I admire. Well, obviously, Polinia is very, very good. They don't have tons of them. I do look at them, Gio, and do see a team of journeymen. It has to be said. And a captain whose name escapes me. We've linked to him for ages. Begins with C. I'm forgetting his name.
Tim Reams, the captain. Tom Kearney as well.
Him, Kearney. Sorry, yeah, the club captain. I think he's a captain. Yeah, I've always liked him. I thought he was a good player, actually. Bassi, were we not linked with him for a while?
A little bit. It's just someone I really wanted.
Yeah, as well. I've got to be honest here. I do look at them and I see a bunch of journeymen, and I don't mean that to be insulting. I hope if any Fulham fans are watching this, I like Fulham. I like them as a club, but I just seem to have a look of a load of players that have failed elsewhere. Really. Pereira's done well. I've got to say, I didn't think anything of him when he was at. He came from Man U, and any time I saw him, I think he played a couple of games there. I thought, oh no, he's not up to the scratch. But actually, he looks okay. I don't think he's a bad player at all. And do you know what? Anthony Robinson seems to cause us some problems when we play against. There's another player that we were linked with as well. I think he came from Wigan. So, yeah, they've got some okay players, but I do think Polinia is brilliant. And obviously, we were linked with him as well. We're linked with everyone.
Well, we bid for Polinia. That's the thing. It will be his surprise me, because I'll be honest with you, I thought he was horrific at Everton, and I laughed my arse off when Everton signed him for 35 million or whatever it was. I couldn't believe that they'd sanctioned that move. I would have paid 3.5 million for him. And then I was unsurprised at how poor he was at Everton. I was more surprised he got the move to Fulham, truth be told. Why are they buying him? But I have to admit, when I've seen Fulham this season, I think he's looked quite good, actually. And that's taken me by complete surprise. I didn't think he had it in him, but he's actually looked quite dangerous for them, actually. I'm worried about him, not necessarily, but I do think he's been quite impressive. Polinia, for obvious reasons. And then Calvin Bassey is someone I would have loved at West Ham. And when he went to Fulham, it's one of those moves where you get frustrated your club hasn't entered the bidding war for him, that he's clearly available. Ajax are up for selling him. You think, hang on a minute, go get him. We need a left back. He's playing centre-back for Fulham, been playing right centre-back, which is a terrible decision. He looks really shaky when he's played there, because it's to accommodate Tim Ream next to him, who's also a left-footed centre-back. But when he's got moved to the left and Tosin's come in, another player that we were linked with at Fulham. We've been linked with every Fulham player.
I know.
We have been, haven't we?
Well,
maybe not Leno.
For years, can he?
We didn't get linked to Leno. Loads of Fulham players been linked with. But Bassey in the last couple of games playing left centre-back, I think he's looked really good, coming out of defence with the ball as well. I still think he's a left-back. From what I've seen at Rangers, I think he's a left-back all day long because of the athletic side of his game, how good he is going forward. But Fulham are playing him at centre-back as well. And he's one of the players I'm monitoring a little bit in the Premier League, in the sense that I've got a personal interest in him. Like I said, more just because I had a big desire to see him at West Ham. I was gutted we didn't get him when he went to Ajax, and I was even more gutted when he went to Fulham. So far, I haven't really been proven correct in the sense that he hasn't lit up Craven Cottage, but I still think that's to come. A talented player.
But you wouldn't swap him, would you? Not for Emerson. You wouldn't swap any left back in the history of the entire history of football for Emerson, would you?
No, probably not. No, I love Emerson. I'd swap him for Adam Craswell, though. The thin Adam Craswell. Shall we talk about West Ham?
Let's do it.
Right then, let's start with team news. As always, Areola missed the game against Tottenham with a wrist injury, although it's not expected to keep him out for too long, so he may return for this one. Mikel Antonio is still unknown. 3 weeks ago, David Moyes says Antonio will be back in 2 weeks. He's still not back, but the rest of them are all available. However, fatigue is the big question mark rather than injuries. Let's move on to how myself and Gonzo would like us to line up. This isn't what we think David Moyes will do. We'll cover that tomorrow. This is what we would like to see David Moyes do. Gonzo, is there a debate to be had as to who starts in goal if Areola's back?
Yes, I would start Fabianski in goal because, there's an injury. And what we're saying, the injury is not fit enough for Thursday, but it's okay for Sunday. Give him a week off. If it's that, I would. He was that good, Fabianski, as well. I'm not making a grand announcement that Fabianski replaces Areola as the club number one, but there's got a lot of fixture congestion. I know it's not the tiredness of the legs, but I found out if he's got a really bad wrist on Thursday, I'd imagine it's still going to be quite bad on Sunday. So give him the week off. Put Fabianski in there. Yeah,
I agree with you. If Fabianski had a howler at Spurs, I'd be saying, we're probably going to have to risk Areola here. But he didn't. I thought he was really good, really solid. Takes the pressure off Areola. Maybe he'll be fit enough for the bench. Maybe he'll be able to go on the bench so he can come on if needs must. But I would also stick with Fabianski for this one and for the Freiburg game as well, actually. And then we'll reevaluate for the game against Wolves next weekend. But Fabianski for me at Craven Cottage. Into defence, how would you like to see us line up?
One change in defence, Geo. I am really mindful about fatigue, by the way. I am worried about it, but it's hard. It's hard to put Thilo Kehrer in there or to put Aaron Cresswell in there because the games are coming thick and fast. I get it. I know Zuma can't play 2 games a week. We know that. We've been told it by the club. He cannot play 2 games a week, right? He is that broken. So I'm going to rest Zuma. I'm going to put Mavropanos in there, and the rest remain the same, which is Soufal, Mavropanos, Agurd, and Emerson.
I would keep Kurt Zuma for this one. I hear what you're saying. We didn't play last weekend, and maybe that doesn't really count because it's still 2 games in 3 days. But still, the point that the club make. But also with one eye on the upcoming fixtures, Zuma is one of those that I wouldn't be playing against Freiburg. So sort of working backwards a little bit, I'd play him against Fulham with the knowledge that he's not playing during the week, and his next game will be at the London Stadium against Wolves 7 days later. So I would stick with Kurt Zuma. I think he was fantastic against Spurs. Is this game going to suit him? I'm not sure. It's a difficult one to gauge, actually, because there's some sides in the league, and we'll get on to the strikers in a second, because this is where this theory comes in further up the pitch as well. There's some sides in the league that play attacking, so you know you're going to be playing a low block. There's some sides that are the opposite, which they're quite defensive, so the onus is going to be on us. We're going to have the possession. So against Crystal Palace, Everton, Nottingham Forest, there's a group of teams in the middle which can do a bit of both, and it's quite hard to gauge as to how this game is going to play out. Fulham's in there. I'd put Brentford in there as well. It's difficult. Arguably, I put Newcastle in there to some extent. Sure. It's difficult to work out if you're going to be sitting deep, if your defense is going to be high up, how your striker is going to be required in the game. Is it going to be a back-to-goal kind of performance, or is it going to be counter-attacking? I think Fulham's quite hard, actually, to really gauge just how this game is going to be played. So I would keep Zuma in, and the rest, I am worried about lack of rotation.
Yeah. But
I think this is a big opportunity, actually, Gonzo, that I think we can win this game. And should we win this game, at present, we are 3 points off 5th in the league. So if we win and results go our way elsewhere, we could be in a really tasty position on Monday morning.
Yeah.
And the last thing we need is 2 more games in European football. But I think at this point, given the opportunity that presents itself, I feel I'd rather see us rotate against Freiburg and gamble that game, because we only need a point in that game. But the reward is go really strong against Fulham and try and get all 3 points and put yourself in a bloody good position in that league table going into the thicker part of December. Moving into midfield then. Any changes for you?
Yeah, there are, because it's for context. I'm sure everybody knows who watches this, because you're West Ham fans. In the last 2 games, we've had 1 substitute on 87 minutes. Now, I'm not no complaint about what happens against Tottenham. No complaint at all. But even if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, you must concede that everybody else is subbing more than West Ham are, and we are going to have some players that are going to be knackered. So that's why we're discussing it. So I'm trying to rest some more, but still keep sort of a strongish team out there. So I'm going to go with Alvarez, James Ward-Prowse, but I'm resting Souček and Paquetá for this one. So I've got 3 players, 3 mates, with Zuma, Souček, Paquetá being rested for this game. On the bench, obviously, and I would hope that they would be brought on if needed. So I'm going to go Alvarez, James Ward-Prowse, Mohamed Kudus's attacking midfield.
Okay, give me the rest of your team then.
Bowen, Mubama, Cornet.
I get it. I'm not gonna say I don't understand what you do. I completely get what you're wanting and why you're wanting it. I completely get it. I've rotated 1 player out the midfield in attack, and that's it. So I'm making 1 change from the team that beat Spurs. Would you like to guess who it is? Just for a game. You
are resting.
Work backwards if you want.
2 guesses. I want 2 guesses. Thank you. Your game, my rules. Lucas Paquetá.
Correct.
Hey, I didn't know 2 guesses. Explain yourself.
I don't think we have alternatives to centre midfield. So I think Alvarez has to play. We don't have an option to replace Alvarez, so he's got to play. In regards to the more central midfielders, in terms of what Souček and Ward-Prowse do, I don't think we've got any alternatives to them. I think they have to play. We've got people, as in Connor Coventry, but I don't want to see him play. I don't want Connor Coventry in the team, so they have to play. Moving further up the pitch, Bowen and Kudus are in fantastic form, I think. I want to win this game. Those 2 players need to be in the team. Now, Paquetá is, in terms of ability, probably our best player. I don't think he's our most important player. I think there's a big difference between the two. That is David Bowen. In terms of technical ability, it's Paqueta. Now, he was good against Tottenham in the second half, but the first half he was god-awful. And in a few weeks prior to that Tottenham game, I think he's been pretty poor, actually. I don't think he's in form at the minute. But he's got the ability to do something, and he has done. Even in the games he's been poor, sometimes he's done something. The goal against Olympiacos, for example, I think he was having a poor game. Bang, volleys it in. We win the game. Thank you very much. But he's one of the players that's going to need a bit of a rest at some point. I mean, they all are arguably going to need a break at some point, and I don't think we're good enough to take 4 or 5 out. I think we'd end up losing this game, and I don't want to. I want to win this bloody game. I think it's such a good opportunity for us. I think we need to go as strong as possible, but somewhat responsible. And one change probably isn't enough. I just don't see the alternatives. So I would bring in. I kind of want to say Cornet, but I don't think he will. And I don't know. It's hard to sort of say Cornet when I've got no faith in manager doing it.
Yeah.
I'd probably bring in Ben Rama for this one. He's got to play when Kudus goes to African Nations. It's probably him that's going to come into the team, given he hasn't been in the latest Algerian squads. There's a good chance he's not going to be in the Algeria squad, so he will be at West Ham. Ben Rama's the player we're possibly going to bring in. So let's get him up and running now, so that when it's not a case of Kudus goes and bring him in from the cold, he's not played for a month, and by the time he's up and running, Kudus is back anyway. So it's a difficult one. However, what I will state, I want to see Kudus start as striker this one. I think Bowen impressed me against Spurs. I'm just not sure how this game plays out. But one thing that really impressed me with Moyes against Spurs was he changed it quick. Changed it in the first half. Kudus and Bowen, I thought it was going okay, actually. And he still changed it. I was really impressed by that. So I'd like to see Kudus start as a striker. But if it's not working, change it quick. The one thing I will say is we need to do subs in this game.
Yeah.
Regardless of who he starts with, he's going to have to start doing more subs, because Moyes himself has alluded to the fact that fatigue's going to be an issue. He's not wrong. You're the only one in charge of substitutes. You have 5 available. You're probably going to have to start making 5 whether you want to or not in terms of fitness. You're probably going to have to start earmarking some players and say, right, ideally, I'm going to take Ward-Prowse off with half an hour to go. I'm going to take Bowen off with 20 minutes to go. He's probably going to have to start planning substitutes as much as you can. Sure, be fluid, change your mind as the game's going, but I think he's going to have to start making subs for subs' sake. Otherwise, we're going to run into problems. And I'm aware I'm going to run into a problem on the preview for Freiburg, in the sense that I can't keep playing this team.
Well, you're not, because David Moyes will do something different, so you'll just respond to what David Moyes has done.
Yeah,
he's not going to play. He's not going to play my team. That's for bloody sure.
What do you think he will do? I'll do my own predicted 11 tomorrow, but what do you think Moyes is going to do?
I think Ben Rama's a really good shout. I would not be surprised if there are only 2 changes, and it possibly might be Zuma, for the reason that I said. When I say 2 changes, forget the goalkeeper. I don't know what he's going to do with the goalkeeper. Yeah. Forget the goalkeeper. May or may not do Mavropanos for the reasons that I said about Zuma, and then I think there might just be 1 outfield change, and it might be Paquetá, it might be Kudus, it possibly might be Souček. One of those 3 is going to get rested by David Moyes, and I do think whatever, you could almost make a case for whatever one of those 3 doesn't get used. The answer is Ben Rama to come in, and he'll just spin everyone else and put everyone else in a tumble dryer.
I think it might be Souček or Kudus because of the international break. Paquetá was obviously in London. Ward-Prowse was in London, so they had quite a refreshing. They've already had a reset button, if you like, whereas Alvarez and Souček and Kudus had quite demanding, not only international breaks, but schedules as well in regards to traveling and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised those 3 are the 3 at the top of his list in terms of who to rotate, if he rotates anyone. Anyway, before we start talking about whether we're confident in score predictions, which we forgot to do the score predictions in the Tottenham preview. We won't forget today. This video is sponsored by BetMGM, where you can play golden goals, Gonzo, and win up to 2 million.
You can win up to 2 million. And if you don't manage to win the prize for 2 million, which, by the way, pays out if you manage to correctly predict the scores of 6 Premier League games, I'll tell you what they are: Brighton v Burnley, Man U v Bournemouth, Wolves v Forest, Everton v Chelsea, Fulham v West Ham, Luton v Man City. So you think you know the scores for those, write them down. Look, if you get them all right, you win 2 million quid. Not bad, eh? But even if you don't, there's still a really, really good, healthy prize pool there, where even just getting 3 right can yield you 5 £100,000. Now, the important thing is to remember that this is a betting app. We'd love you to use the link below so they know you've come from Hammers Chat. However, the Golden Goals is a free-to-play game. There is actually another offer running alongside it, which is deposit £10, get £40 worth of free bets. If you just want to play Golden Goal, that's all I'm doing, then use the link below, sign up, get your predictions in, and we'll be interested to see. If you win the £2 million, come back and let us know. I think you know what I mean.
And if you are into gambling, like myself, gamble responsibly, but it is actually a really good website and it's got some good offers as well. You can get a 100% boost on some of your odds. Only £5 stake, maximum stake of £5. It's pretty good. Turning. So Jared Bourne also to score a goal on Sunday. If you fancy Bourne to make it 8 in 8 away games, it's 3-1 to score a goal at any time on BetMGM. So it's good odds. Link in description, as Gonzo said. Get signed up. It's free to join up, free to play Golden Goals, but it is a gambling site, so please be careful. Gonzo, you feeling confident?
Yeah, I've been particularly fruity recently, has to be said, in terms of these West Ham results. I thought we'd beat Palace, we didn't, but I suspected we might beat Tottenham, and we did. So look, there's no science in it. If you keep thinking we're going to win, eventually we will. But I haven't thought that with all West Ham this season. I mean, plenty of previews we've done where I thought we might not do so well. So, but for this one, I really do. I think you mentioned at the start about Fulham and maybe they've been a bit cagey. Now they're not. Now we've got free scoring Fulham at the moment, and that may well just play into our hands. It really might. There's only one reason I can see us not winning this, and that is that our energy levels won't quite be as high as I mentioned when we just did our Patreon video. I suspect. I just don't agree with David Moyes' appraisals about the first 45 minutes in games. Burnley, back at Spola, Nottingham Forest have been really crap in the first half, and I do think that is to do with the game every few days, 2 games a week. And I think it would just takes us a little while to get going, we're a little bit, probably turn up a little bit achy, the warm-up's not warming us up. West Ham's warm-up is the first half. And then I think we get going. So that's the only thing that would concern me, I think, in terms of players, and I think in terms of tactics for this one. I am quite confident because I do think we come through a little period where we've played teams whose tactics don't suit us, actually. And I'm sort of hoping that Fulham's do. Having watched, the irony is, I've only watched Fulham this season since they've been free scoring. I don't remember that other one where they were not doing particularly well. So I've only seen Iwobi playing well, and Jimenez coming back and scoring like he has been. And so they've looked pretty damn good. And Pereira there sort of pulling the strings. I think if they come at us like that and we've got enough energy, I do think we'll hit them on the break. And I think they may struggle with people like Bowen and Kudus. I do.
Yeah, I mean they're in good nick at the minute. 2 wins in the last 3, and the one they didn't win was the 4-3 defeat at Anfield, which was a last-minute goal as well. So spirited performance. Now that's the game I haven't seen. I didn't see them against Liverpool. I've seen the highlights. That's all. I've seen their game against Nottingham Forest, and while they've done good, I'm not taking anything away from Fulham. Forest were dreadful. Forest are dreadful. So there is an element of that to take into consideration. In the win against Wolves, I mean, it was just a shambles of a game in terms of the VAR getting involved in the referees' performances. And I do feel there's a massive element of luck in that Fulham win. But we can't speak about luck because we've had our own element of luck as well. But 2 of the goals for Fulham that night were penalties, and it possibly should have had a player sent off. I think they should have had a player sent off when Vinicius sort of slapped Kilman because Kilman just didn't make a meal of it. It's just a yellow card, Bucadio kind of thing. But they have been really goal shy up until recently. So I'm trying to work out what I expect from this Fulham team. And Kearney has done really well since going into that midfield. They've taken Reed out and put Kearney in next to Polina, and I think that's made a big difference because they've now got a bit more creativity from deeper. But against that Wolves game in particular, there was a lot of opportunities for Wolves to counter-attack where they got the ball and Hwang and Cunha were running at the Fulham defence, and that defence has been a little bit shaky this season as well in some games. There has been a lot of defensive errors. So I'm feeling quite confident, actually. And I think that win last night against Spurs, I'm hoping will almost remove some of the fatigue because you've got that momentum. You feel, I remember speaking to Anton about this, and he was saying when you're winning, you don't feel tired. Your adrenaline's going. You've got the momentum. It's a good place. As soon as the game's finished, you're looking forward. You want back out on the pitch for the next one. But when you're losing, he said fatigue's a massive thing because naturally you're just a bit mentally you're down, and it just takes its toll on you. So I'm hoping that because of the win, and we are in bloody good form at the minute, whether you like how we're winning or not is a different argument, but we're winning games. I'm feeling confident, Gonzo. I'm looking forward to this one. I've got a real spring in my step today because of that win last night. It's got me looking forward to it. Whereas Wednesday, I was probably dreading this game a little bit because I think Tottenham's tactics suited us more than Fulham's ones do. But Fulham's is a difficult one. So anyway, can I get any final words from yourself? And your score prediction, we need to remember that today.
Well, funny enough, I will be putting a score prediction in my golden goals score prediction. Absolutely. I'm quite hopeful, actually. So I think I don't know about momentum. I think certainly, hope and Christmas cheer is with us on this one. I think 2 away games, both being in London, it's good. I think that's
helpful, but.
Well, it is helpful, and it is. I mean, if you've got week after week after week, and you're playing these games, and actually you don't, at a time when you're possibly at your most fatigued, and I think we might be now, you don't have to travel up to Manchester or Newcastle or wherever. I think that's a good thing, and I think that may well help. I mean, let's not forget they played the day before Fulham as well, so they have a little bit of an advantage there, and also they won't have the cumulative fatigue that we have. So I do think things like that may well be important. I think there's opportunity there. I really do. And I mentioned after the Palace when I wasn't happy with the Palace performance. I thought we should have gone for it. But I said at the time, look, if we can beat Tottenham, we can beat Fulham. That Palace point doesn't look so bad. That was before Palace went and got trounced by Bournemouth, of course. But you know what I mean. If you look at that,
I think you're still right, though. I think if we beat Fulham, 7 points from that 3 games is a fantastic haul.
Exactly, particularly when you're chasing as we are, and then you look at sort of Newcastle. Ultimately, I'd be surprised if Newcastle are our competitors this season in terms of league position, but nonetheless, they lost last night, and you put yourself in the mix, don't you? In terms of the points difference is not so great. There's also this chasm, I think, starting to be created between the top half and the bottom half. I think Chelsea are a bit of an anomaly for reasons that there's no point going into. You all sort of know what they are yourselves. And so I think this is important as well. So I think a win here is quite an important one. Not vital. No one's job hangs in the balance on this win, but I think it would be a good one to win. And I suspect West Ham might win this. I think we might win this 2-0.
Oh, I'm going to say 2-1. I still don't trust us to keep a clean sheet, but I think we've got goals in us, and I'm hoping they move Calvin Bassey back over to the right side of the centre back, so that there's a glaring weakness there for us to get at, in my opinion. So I'm going to say 2-1 West Ham. I'm looking forward to it, actually, and I think it is if we do win, it's a big one. This is a type of game. I think if you want to finish in the top half of the table, a draw is a good result. You want to finish in the top 7 or 8 of the Premier League, you need a win in this game. Yeah. These are the types of fixtures which can sometimes be the difference between finishing 10th and 8th. That extra points, because you're expected to beat Crystal Palace at home. Brilliant. But there's games we've won, like Nottingham Forest at home, Burnley away. We're expected to beat them, really. Fulham away, we're probably the favourites, but I think the bookies would probably have this one down as a draw. So we could pick up a win here. It's not quite bonus points, but I do think those around us, like Brighton or Brentford, for example, they may not win at Craven Cottage. So we can get it. That might just give us a little bit of a head start on some of our rivals for the top 8 of the league. So anyway, there you have it. We're going to shop and disappear. If you want to grab 20% off your books, head to hammerschatstore.com. If you want to grab a packet of beer mats that celebrates our win in Prague, head to hammerschatstore.com after 8:30 on Saturday. £4 for those. Please drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to Hammer's Chat, myself and Gonzo. Catch you in a bit.